Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to C-Suite Sports. It's your main man, Mike G. Thank you for riding with me this afternoon. I've got Nick and Chuck and the whole gang here. Missed you last week. Had to take a little personal break. Had a funeral. Friend of mine. It's that time in life when folks are moving on, and a very close friend's mother passed away, and had to spend some time with the family and attend a funeral out of town. So I missed you guys last week. But I do want to send a shout out to my girl Tracy and her brother Michael, and on the loss of their mother, Miss Alma Brown, who was a special lady, and died 20 years to the day. 20 years to the day of her husband's death. Her husband was the former Secretary of Commerce, Ron Brown. And they had been married, I suppose, for some 30 years or so before he perished in that plane crash during the Clinton administration. And 20 years later to the day, on April 3rd, Miss Brown actually passed away. So again, I just want to send my condolences to the family. We've been friends for a long time, and I know they will miss their mom very much. And as one who has gone through the loss of one's mother, went through that myself a few years ago, and it's a tough time. But that being said, no great way to transition from that, but I do want to get caught up. It's on the last 2 weeks of events that have taken place. Had some exciting things, had a few big events, the annual Rites of Spring, including the Masters, and, a lot of criticism that Jordan Spieth incurred while pulling the second place, while pulling second place at the event, which is kind of amazing, because there's a lot of people, as they sit here and criticize Jordan for not coming in first place. If you're, I don't know about how most of you feel, but for me, as I look at it, if the worst thing you could say about dude is that he's like 21, 22, and he's gotten a second place, a first place, and then another second place at the Masters, he's riding around in, he's riding around in private planes, traveling the world, dating beautiful ladies, having a good time with his boys. Whenever you see him with with Rory and Jason Day, the top, few competitors, they appear to all get along, all be having a great time. It's almost like the Rat Pack in golf, and I don't think that they're bad guys, bad boys, etc. But they appear to be having a great time, nice, clean cut, good dudes, doing the right thing. I trade hands with dude in a second. I don't know who wouldn't. So for all the criticism he's receiving from folks about, quote unquote, not winning, and did he choke? He's already won a Masters. He's already won a couple of major championships, and folks are sitting here slamming him, talking about, did he choke? I just think it's such nonsense. It's almost like there's a passion. It's almost like there's a passion in people to try to tear one another down, particularly in this environment in social media now, where now it's almost like, well, somebody can't be that happy, so we gotta tear him. We gotta tear him down. We've got to call him a choke artist. What is the choking? He came in second place in the world's premier golf tournament. He came in second place, and that's a disaster. Most of us who are within earshot of anything I'm saying, if somebody said you could be the number 2 person at your company, the number 2 person at your job, I don't care if it's the doctor, I don't care if you're a manager at an office, I don't care if you're, the number two salesperson in an organization. For most people, if you were the number two person at whatever you were doing for a day, for a week, for a month, much less a year or more, or even let's say this guy has a career of being the number two guy. Let's say Rory becomes the number one golf player over the next year or the next decade. What if dude is just cool and he's number two? Ask yourself a question. Whose life was better, arguably, and we probably don't know them, but whose life was probably better over the past decade and a half? Yours? Whoever you is who's saying something about Jordan Spieth right now, whose life was better over the past decade and a half? Your life or Phil Mickelson's? Because Phil's effectively been, the past decade and a half, you can call it even 2 decades. He's basically been second fiddle to Tiger Woods. A lot of folks would trade hands with Phil. A lot of folks would. So to sit here and slam Spieth like, oh my God, he's a choke artist. Are we walking around calling? I guess some people have called Phil Mickelson a choke artist. He's choked a few times. He's certainly good for, firing up a triple bogey every now and again and just blowing himself out of a tournament and, going for a crazy shot. And all of a sudden he's, in bad position. And then they labeled him a bad course manager and all kinds of other stuff. But I guess my global point is just that in an environment where it just seems like there's something about this vehicle of social media that is just so dangerous that it has people taking shots, I think, that they would not otherwise take. They certainly wouldn't take them if they sat down, if they had the opportunity or chance to sit down one-on-one with a lot of people. Most people wouldn't take shots at all. It's just a matter of you can hide behind this thing and just anonymously walk up and just take a big swing at somebody. It's kind of like being in your car on the road. Everybody becomes a bully. Everybody becomes a big shot. When it comes time to actually get out of your car, though, not everybody really wants to get out of their car. Everybody feels safe in their car. Okay, well, we're starting off with a call kind of early, but we're going to give it a shot. I don't know who's calling in, but let's give it a whirl. You're on with Mike G. I'm doing all right. Okay. Okay. Amen corner, the 12th hole. Yeah, no, it did. He got a hell of a scalp. He did some damage. Yeah, yeah, he sure did. He had a 5-stroke lead. What's tough about it? I would say, I don't think it gets that close for a couple of reasons. I don't think, and I appreciate your call, by the way. And I'd even be happy to go back and engage for a minute about Mr. Romney, since you were good enough to call and you appear passionate about it. But we'll do that in a second. But I don't think you could call it a choke for this reason. Number one, he's too. You can't call him a choke artist because he's too young in his career. If you're a choke artist, that to me that suggests a body of work. You got to be choking savagely, like every time the pressure's on, for a decade. Then I think we can call you a choke artist once we have more of a body of work. So that's number one. Number two, if you're leading 7 rounds of golf at the most important tournament in the world, you could have choked under the pressure at any point over the past 7 rounds. I mean, how did you get to be the leader? You got to be the leader by not choking. You could have choked when you teed off. You know what I mean? So I don't like to put that stigma on him. Yeah, he had a bad hole. Yeah, maybe he had a brain cramp, a mind fart, whatever you want to call it. And he had a bad shot. But still, that's a hell of a hand to play. Second, first, and second. 3 years in a row, one of the world's top golfers, and appears to be a great kid, great family, good disposition. I don't know what more we would want from our athletes in terms of an example other than a kid like Spieth. I think he's fantastic, and people ought to get off him because it's a lot of hate unnecessarily. No, no doubt, no doubt. Now take me back to 2012. I'm gonna give you a minute on politics since you were good enough to call in, and I consider myself somewhat versatile. So go ahead. Yeah, yeah, he did. Okay. Well, listen. Thank you for calling, and please listen in and call in the future. Okay. Thanks very much. And listen, hit it long and straight, brother. Well, well, sports fans, it was a interesting call. Got in a little bit of politics as well as a little bit of golf. So that was a good thing. Um, well, let me change subjects real quick and uh, and jump back to baseball. As this gentleman, as the caller just said, it is baseball season. I want to touch upon a subject that I have touched upon, briefly before, but it just appears to be building momentum. Somewhere within the stupidity of the last generation of ball players, many of them Hall of Famers, but somewhere in the soup of Goose Gossage and Mike Schmidt and whoever else is saying, "Hey, look, these young guys today, they just don't get it," what have you. I think honestly, the old guys today just don't get it. The old guys today don't get the fact that baseball